Hi everyone, Asim here again. I'm your host and founder of Healingclouds. Today I'm with Milena Berry. Milena is the co-founder and CEO of PowerToFly, the fastest growing global platform connecting women with companies that value work-life integration. Female-friendly benefits, equal pay for equal work, and environments they can thrive in. Milena is on a mission to partner with top 100 brands to bring them a range of diversity solutions provided through the PowerToFly platform. Milena, thank you so much for doing this with us today and welcome on our podcast.
Wow, wonderful. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Thanks, Milena. All right, so, before we get started really deep into the questions, can you please tell us a bit more about yourself, about your journey, and you also worked with avaz.org. So how did your experience shape what you're doing right now?
Yeah, well, I'd like to say that my story is a story of hope, right? We all are really thinking about diversity in the workplace, and most of the stories that are out there in the media are those of harassment, disenfranchisement, discrimination, inequality, and that's certainly very true. But my story was, I like to look at it a little differently, right? So first of all, I'm a mother of 4 now, and at the time that I worked for Avaz, I actually had 3 kids in the span of 5 years. So wow. I was very much, had my hands full on the home front. And at the same time, I was really their chief technology officer. And so I had the privilege of building their online platform from 0 to 33 million members, all with a distributed team, technology team around the world. And it was just really a fantastic kind of work journey. And most women really struggle with finding the balance between, having kids and having a fulfilling career. My story was different. And when I finally took a deep breath, when my youngest at the time 3 was about 2.5 years old, and I looked around in the world and I started reading the news again, I noticed that my experience was not that of most women in the workplace. And I asked myself, well, why is that, right? And I realized that I had been very, very lucky to work for a company that values diversity and inclusion, had created the right work-life balance policies in place, had allowed me to work remotely, which was a big factor in being able to juggle, a really responsible and job and home conditions, and therefore had allowed me to thrive. And so that was really my inspiration behind creating PowerToFly. I realized that I can create this story of hope for millions of women around the world, and at the same time solve a concrete problem, a problem that I had experienced myself as a hiring manager in technology, which is, when you set out to hire, I didn't know where to find the right women, and everybody was saying there's not enough women, and I knew the women are there, but we didn't know how to talk to them, and so that's how PowerToFly was created. We have about 250,000 active members right now, and we have a database of 25 million professional women. So to anybody who says that the women are not there, I can tell them.
Wow, that's huge. That's huge. Congratulations, first of all, on that.
Thank you. It's really exciting.
So would you say maybe you got lucky with avaz.org? Because I mean, I would like to imagine that things are only getting better day by day for women, because there's a big movement around women in tech, especially women in tech. There's a huge big scene, and you're obviously a woman in tech, and not just a woman in tech, a woman who has held the highest position in tech. I mean, you were the CTO. So would you think you got lucky in that scenario, or I don't know? I mean, am I missing something here?
I absolutely got lucky, and. But there's also a phrase, the harder I work, the luckier I get. So I think I need, by all means, right? Like I sit on top of privilege. I had education. I had parents who gave me a wonderful education. We invested every last dollar that they had in my education to send me to school here in the US and invest in the network that I created, which ultimately led to my being able to take this position at Avaz. The other thing that happened, which I think was really interesting and definitely a part of my journey, is that there was a huge moment of when I had to leap, right? And say, I am deeply unqualified for this position that I'm grabbing for right now, right? When I was taking on the position, when I raised my hand and I said I want this position at Avaz, I had not held the chief technology position before. I had not held the director of engineering position before. I had been a director of production, dubbed a little bit in QA, studied computer engineering and arts and technology, but I was really passionate about what Avaz was building. And they were looking for somebody to take over their technology team. And I raised my hand and I said, I know I don't really know exactly what I'm doing, but I'm really passionate about what you're building. And I promise you, I'll figure it out. And I'll work very hard to get there. And they gave me that chance. They said, well, let's see how it goes in a month. They didn't really have any other options at that time. And so they said, let's just see how it goes for a month. We can't promise much more. And I worked so hard. I woke up every day excited about all the things I had to do, excited to over-deliver, excited to learn everything that I didn't know. And that was, I think, a big moment that people can learn from, that sometimes you just gotta leap and say, I'm really passionate about this and I really want it. And can you please give me a chance?
Leap, and not just leap and make sure that you prove everybody wrong, or maybe prove yourself right, as in work hard towards it as well. I mean, like you said, you got lucky, but then you worked hard to get lucky. So right. I think that is I mean that combination is obviously that much more important as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So with all the challenges, these days with women in workplace, women, I mean, not limited to women and, non-binary individuals face in their workplace, do you think it impacts their mental health?
So first of all, let me take a pause and thank you for saying not just women, also non-binary individuals. I think it's so important. And as we talk about PowerToFly, we often struggle because it's really hard to, sometimes you want to have crisp and very concise messaging, and you don't want to say women and those who identify as women and trans and non-binary folks. Like, it's a long sentence if you're trying to create one sentence and in what you're saying. But we, by all means, at PowerToFly, when we talk about women, we are inclusive of those who identify as women and who are non-binary trans individuals, or anywhere really on the LGBTQI plus spectrum. And so now to answer your second question, do these issues impact people's mental health? I mean, yes, absolutely. And I think obviously, trans people have it the worst nowadays, I think, in terms of just how they are treated still in society and not just in the workplace. I think, where gay rights were in the 70s of last century are where trans rights are here today. So they're about 50 years behind. I think, and if you think about it, really, women's emancipation probably started around about a century ago, right? So, and then 50 years later came the LNG rights, right? And then now, another 50 years later, people really finally taking to heart the rest of the spectrum. And so, of course, that has reverberating effects on everything, right? When you're not seen as who you truly are, when you're constantly misgendered, when you constantly, are not at peace with your identity and family and the way people see you, or when people even give you weird looks, and they're not often, they're not often even malicious, right? They're just curious, but you stand out all the time. That does affect your mental health all the time. And certainly I think we need to create spaces in the workplace to really deal with all of that and to educate our colleagues and our employees on how to not misgender, how to treat them, what do all the pronouns mean, or how do you talk correctly about things? How do we need to have, what kind of bathroom arrangements do we need to have? Because you'd be surprised, but one of the biggest, sources of discomfort on a daily level are the discomfort to go to a men's bathroom when you feel, when you identify as a woman, right? So it's just, it's crazy that we're so behind on all of that by all means, it affects us. And then when it comes to women, just, I guess, cis women, I'll say, in the workplace, I think, again, I am personally not somebody who has allowed herself to get down because of what I have experienced in the workplace. And actually, if I think of my story, I don't see a story of harassment. I don't see a story of inequality. I feel like I was actually supported by male leaders, and I had been very lucky. I consider myself very lucky compared to the stories that I hear out there. But I certainly know that if I think deeply enough, I can actually say, oh, well, I somehow brushed this off my shoulder, but that comment that somebody made in a meeting, or the assumption constantly that even now I'm a CEO and I'd walk on the street with my partner and she'd see a friend and somebody would automatically assume that I don't work because I have 4 kids. Like literally, I still face this assumption on a daily basis where you have 4 kids. Oh, you must not be working. Like literally that's the first people automatically assume. It's unconscious bias, I'm sure, right? Yeah. It's just whatever society has taught them, and they don't mean bad, but it's always a surprise for people to hear that I'm actually working when I have 4 kids. And let alone to even conceive that I have started a company and I'm a CEO and all of that, yes. Right? Yeah. So I don't let it depress me, I don't let it, I just move on, but it does happen, right?
I'm just curious about something, right? So now with the whole movement, I'm going to speak particularly about women now, because there's a huge movement around where, especially in the workplace and even in the investment scene, there are a lot of organizations. There's a lot of places or things that are set up for women, and a lot of backing for women in general, but then when I speak to individual women, I hear a big disconnect. So, I mean, what is happening? Because, for example, in the startup scene, you have a lot of VCs who have a fund specifically only for women. For instance, you have all these accelerator programs and these incubators which are only catering to women. So I'm sure there's a change, but is the problem that the change is not enough, or is the problem that these are only ticking the boxes? I mean, people are just doing that for PR, or I mean, you being in the right space. I mean, can you shed some light on that?
Absolutely. So first of all, I think by all means there is progress, right? Where we are today, we were not there 10 years ago. Women are getting more funding and more resources and more attention today, deservedly so, than 10 years ago, right? Like, so things have changed, and they have changed for the better. And all of these things that you mentioned, right? Like PowerToFly is an alumni of Hearst Lab. This is an incubator for female-led companies, which means that one of the founders has to be a female. Most of the time it's the CEO. They have, I don't even know, over 20 now amazing startups as part of their portfolio. A huge initiative by one of the Hearst chief general counsel. She's just an amazing woman of the name of Eve Burden, who's really the brain behind Hearst Labs. A number of venture capitalists are definitely putting an attention to this, and they know, where we were 10 years ago is wrong, and so they're making a conscious effort to bring forward more female partners, to promote more females, maybe at least at the associate level, so that they have a chance to then raise through the ranks over the years. There's a lot of also amazing female investors that are just the lead investors and the starters of their own funds. And so all of that is absolutely a very, very positive development. I think where the disconnect happens, and I have personally experienced it in some of my fundraising journeys, is that what happens is some of these women then get a little burned out because they don't want to be treated like, oh, because I'm a woman investor, I'm going to invest in you just because you're a woman, right? You have to have a business case. You have to not treat them like, because again, they have worked hard to make it in a men's world. They don't want to be patronized by their, male executives of supporting a business just because it's a female-led business. So like you have to have a good business case. You have to have the right metrics, the right executive presence, and all of that to get funded. And so we have had some situations in the past where we've actually gotten worse response from the female investors. Wow. Because, they're just like, oh yeah, you're talking to me just because I'm a woman and, whatever, and actually the men are more conscious of like, I really need to, improve my numbers. I need to be more open-minded. I need to fight my unconscious biases. So, and they're actually more active in fixing it, right? So it's a very interesting dynamic that's happening. But by all means, we're way better than we are today. And do we have more work to do? By all means, we have more work to do. I mean, even if you look at the statistics, right, and I forget what exactly, I'll give you probably a slightly wrong answer, but I think in 2019, or maybe it was 2018, I'm losing track of time. COVID's really weird on time. But
all of us, don't worry.
I think something like the second largest backer of female-led companies, and again, a female-led company is defined where one of the co-founders is a woman, not even the CEO. So the second largest supporter, the second biggest supporter of female founders in the New York startup city scene, who are our investors, by the way, and we're very proud to be backed by them. They had invested in 17% of their portfolio had been female-led only, right? And so that is a very small number. And in terms of like profits driving, et cetera, I mean, it's very clear that every single study has shown that you put a woman on the top, you're going to get better profitability, more growth, better business results. So there's a business case for doing that. It's not just like the right thing to do. It's a financially right thing to do.
Yeah, so there's obvious return on investment as well.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's not just out of empathy or out of compassion. I mean, it is business at the end of the day.
You cannot do it out of empathy. That doesn't make sense.
Correct.
Like at the end of the day, you got to make economic sense. So I think it's, just like the diverse teams for 33% better financial returns than the industry mean, right? That's a lot. That's
Wow.
Like 1/3, right? If you make like 100 million a year of revenue, you can make 133 million a year revenue. So
correct.
It's really crazy. Yeah. And then there's like a ton of studies. I'll give you just a few things that I just grabbed off our website. But if you close the gender gap or work towards closing the gender gap, that would grow worldwide GDP by 5%. I mean, that's like a ton of,
That's huge.
Exactly. So anyway, there's definitely a business case for it. It's not just the right thing to do.
Talking about diversity, I mean, you also say diversity is important for workplaces. Do you also think it helps in creating a better work culture, one that is more supportive and inclusive?
Of course, yeah. I mean, you're asking me kind of yes, of course. Let me just try to see what I can elaborate on that. I guess I can talk a little bit about anecdotes. I mean, it all comes down to, again, you gotta build better products, right? And so to build better products, you have to build it with the teams that are representative of the user base that you're gonna have. So very few products out there I use, let's say, by men only, or by women only, or by African Americans only, or like it's. And if you think about, let's say for pretty much everything, 80% of purchasing decisions are driven by women, right? So again, if we're creating some sort of a product that is created only by white males, or it's just not going to work at the end of the day, because you're not experiencing. I think your question was a little bit different though, in terms of like, will a diverse team be a more inclusive culture? I mean, of course. And I think, again, and would it be safer for people if the team is diverse? By all means, because I think what happens is, let's say you have an 80%, some sort of monochromatic team, right? And I don't know, I'll give you an extreme case. Let's say it's a startup in the Bay Area, and they're all like 20 something out of college, and they just like, really, God, reminds me of a conference I went to. Maybe I'll tell you that story later. But, and so they're 20 something, they work around the clock, and now they hired a few people who are perhaps different demographic. So maybe it's a woman, she has kids. Well, she will never fit in, right? Like, because let's say the guys are going out and, doing beer pong at the office.
Yeah, partying
these are not stereotypes. This is reality for people, right? For many, many people in a workplace. And so the team activities become really skewed to one part of the population without even thinking that, like, wait, if I do beer pong, first of all, a mom doesn't want to get drunk before coming home because you have to take care of the kids. Second of all, like, the mom is in a hurry to get home to relieve the child care because she has to pay out of pocket for every single second. The child care provider stays later, right? Or God forbid, there's something like, hey, I got to leave work and take my kid to the doctor. Somebody not in that demographic or work life situation, like, is not going to understand it at all. And that causes a lot of grief to people, a lot of discrimination, therefore grief and, not belonging. So absolutely, I think as much of the diversity there is, and as much as we invest in understanding each other, and kind of where we all coming from and what our backgrounds are and what are our priorities outside of work, and actually create, both work schedules and team building schedules to reflect all of our needs, that's all for the better. Everybody's going to feel, a better sense of belonging at the end of the day, and less mental issues, to your point.
So, I mean, what can companies do to, help support their employees better? I mean, is only being inclusive enough? What else can they do?
Well, so I first think it really starts with, it has to start early. This whole journey on being a diverse and inclusive culture. So sometimes, oftentimes we work with companies that it's gotten way out of control, right? They're bringing us in when, they now have 50 to 100 employees. Their demographic is very skewed. Everybody's favorite kind of recruiting channel is referrals. But when you're starting with a very kind of skewed demographic, you really you're accelerating and amplifying your imbalance already, right? So you got to be mindful and strategic from day one, right? And second, again, it starts with the attraction. Make sure that the pipeline of the people coming into the company are very diverse, and you're very kind of like on the path to, like, from a pipeline perspective and people who you're interviewing, you have a diverse representation. And not just about gender, right? It's also about ethnicity. It's also about race. It's also about, abilities, veteran status, LGBTQ. Like, try to be as inclusive as you can. Of course, you're not going to hit all the points at all times, but if you're mindful and you set your eyes to something, you will achieve, right? I've seen this time and time again. You also have to then, during the talent attraction process, create a really inclusive process. And so, for example, you have to examine how you talk about your culture in job descriptions. I'll give you another stereotype, which sadly happens still to every day. Technical positions are often described as ninjas and gurus. That is not a very female-friendly name, right? Please don't ever use that word when you're talking to, about a technical position you want to open. Maybe you want to talk about, your seniority, your expertise, or whatever it is that you want to do, but don't use guru and ninja. That turns people off, turns women off. I know that much, and then once women start flowing into your pipeline, well, how do you treat them? And what does the panel of people who interviews them look like? So I've had so many, oh my God, the horror story I can tell you from 7 years of working in this place are really, I've seen my fair share. I've also seen a lot of people doing good work. And so, I don't want to say that it's really bad out there, but there's a lot to get done. And so, for example, oftentimes you would see, a very senior African-American woman, and she walks into an interview loop with 5 white guys, right? She will not want to take that job at the end anyway, right? So you got to see, like, first of all, who are the people interviewing? Make sure that people are representative. There's some issues sometimes because you're like, well, the chicken and the egg problem. Until I have women, I can't put any women in the interview loop. And then I have one woman. Well, she has to do all the interviews now because she's the one woman on my team. But you got to start somewhere, and you got to, dig yourself out of the hole if you're in that hole. And then finally, and probably not even finally, but in the first place, before you do all of that, really think about, is my person going to thrive? Are my employees thriving in the workplace? Do they feel like they belong? Can they bring their full self to work, right? And until you have that, don't even start the attraction process, because you're just going to put all that effort, which is hard and takes time and takes effort and takes investment. And by all means, it's worth it. But you're just going to bring people in, and they're going to want to leave you if you have not created a culture of belonging and inclusivity. first place. So start with a culture of inclusivity and belonging, and then analyze your audience, or rather employee base, and then work on attracting the people that you're under indexing on.
And now coming to the employees, what would you like to say to women and non-binary individuals who are maybe struggling at this point in time in their workplace, and what can they actually do to change their situation? I mean, is there anything that they can do themselves?
Absolutely. And again, if you go on PowerToFly, there's just a ton of stories of those who have been in that situation, but instead of despairing, they have carved their own hero's journey and changed the world that they want to live in. I think I see Elizabeth. You can edit this out later.
Okay.
Examples, right? First of all, know that you're not alone, right? And the fact that, first of all, there's other women, other non-binary and trans folks in your situation, and you have to create a sense of community. And if there's no community in your company, seek that community online so that you understand that you're not alone. Because I think the worst kind of mental effects happen when you feel like you're in this all alone, no support, by yourself, etc. And so know that like this journey is shared by others. I think is a very good starting point. Second of all, I think you can definitely. I've seen so many stories where we were working with a client, and part of what we do is we feature those stories of hope. An engineer had said, "Listen, I don't like what I'm seeing. These are the issues that I'm seeing. This is how I'm going to help you fix them," right? And she went to her manager with that kind of attitude, right? With the attitude, not just like, this is a problem and I'm pissed off and I'm hate for it, but like, this is the problem. This is how we can work to solve it. And more often than not, ownership. And more often than not, managers are really supportive of that. And a change, because most of the time people don't want to be, they find themselves surprised to be in a situation of discrimination or inequality in their workplace, and they would gladly take any steps that they can to fix it. Now, if you're in a toxic environment, get out of there, of course. But and find a company that's committed to diversity and inclusion, and create yourself a better story. But again, most often not, like, you're in control. You can change this. Create an actionable plan. Part of what ends up happening, by the way, especially in the bigger companies, is that sometimes when they maybe are at the 100-person mark, is the right time to create the affinity groups within a company, and to actually seek those. I was talking about community outside of the company, or you can create community within your company as well, right? So, and then again, when the company is too small, that's it's a little bit hard, and it happens maybe organically on Slack and et cetera. But when you're around 100 is the right time to start to think, okay, maybe we can have parents at work, they call them the employee resource groups. Or maybe it is the women in tech employee resource group. Maybe it is the people of color employee resource groups. And then the more the company grows, the more of these groups spontaneously start happening. And you can do all sorts of things in terms of, currently virtually, but you can gather, discuss issues, support each other.
Sure.
Again, community and belonging can raise you out of the feeling of loneliness and I'm out of control and there's nothing I can do,
But in every scenario, either ways, if you have these groups or if you don't, if the company is small or if it's large, if it's toxic, not toxic, I think it all starts from you, though. You need to take that first step to change, your, whatever situation you're in. So you need to take the first step, and I think you'd be pleasantly surprised how many people would be out there to support you.
I completely agree. And that's true in any journey in life. Like whether you're like, I want to lose weight, or I want to stop smoking, or I want to, whatever it is, like I want to fix the issues I have with my parents, like any that you have in life, it starts with you. And, you can tell your child, I need you to do this, or your partner, I think you should do this. But until they decide to do it themselves, you cannot do it. And so I think how we support others is perhaps, with stories of hope and inspiration and kind of portraying like how it can be better on the other side of what they're through. But until they take the first step and fully commit to it, it won't happen. You can't make somebody else do something that they're not in for, you know.
I'm sure this podcast will inspire a lot of people. I'm guessing a lot of women as well, especially younger women, and a lot of women, especially in tech. I know a few who are trying to now come out of that working environment and basically get into the startup phase where they can form their own company, become CEOs and co-founders and all that. What advice would you like to give them? Because I mean, it is tough. I mean, I'm on the same journey. I've been in it for a couple of years, and it is probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. And I've had conventional businesses. I've worked for big corporates, but this is a completely different ballgame altogether. But I mean, what advice would you give them, particularly being a woman?
Okay, so. Couple things. I don't know, like it's really interesting. I always say it's a phrase, and I'm not religious, but it's it's just a phrase that my dad is not religious either, but it's just a phrase that we have kind of in our family, and it's Allah loves the brave. I think an expression, right? And it's just. And so the moments in my career when I have been faced with a choice of doing the safe thing, that is the safe thing, right? Like it makes sense. It will be a steady job. It will be a safe job. I'll make more money. I'll get the visa related to it, whatever it is, like the safe choice in life. And the thing that excites me, right? The thing that I'm going to learn the most, thing that's like I'm going to work for this startup and I'm not going to get the visa and they're certainly not going to pay me, and like there's just all these things on the other side. But I knew that I'm going to wake up every day so excited to work on whatever that thing was, right? And so being brave in those moments has really worked out for me in life, and brave, by the way, some people, I think, my daughter keeps telling me I'm not brave. And I'm like, yes, you are. She's like, but I'm so scared. I'm not brave. And I tell her, bravery is not being scared. Bravery is feeling the fear and doing it anyway.
I love that. I love that.
So by all means, I have been scared many, many times in my life when I have been on a crossroad and I have been like, well, do I jump off the cliff and like, we'll see what happens? Well, I learned how to fly, got the power to fly, right? In my last jump off the cliff. So I think it's certainly recognize when you're feeling the fear, practice, because it's a practice. It's not a one-time thing. You have to practice bravery and trust that every time you do that, there's going to be something great on the other side.
I couldn't have said it better. And this doesn't only apply to or is limited to women. I think this is across the board. It doesn't matter what gender you're from or this is just anybody and everybody. And I mean, not only limited to people, trying to start a company. It's just anybody and everybody. So, once again, thank you so much. This was fantastic, really empowering, to be honest. It's amazing, everything that you've achieved in your life, and I'm sure you'll go on to achieve, a lot more than what you have today. And thank you so much for doing the work that you do and helping so many people around you. So, thank you so much for today and everything that you are.
It's my pleasure, and thank you for spreading the word.
Before I let you go, can you just tell everybody who's watching how can they find you if they had to reach out to you? Can you tell us your LinkedIn handle, or are you on social media, and how can they find your company as well?
Awesome, thank you. So yes, please find me on PowerToFly.com. That's our website, and there's a ton of things happening there every day. You can look for jobs, you can look for career upskilling. We actually have an amazing summit happening. So in case you're watching the podcast in the next 8 weeks, you should check out PowerToFly.com/summit. Yes, I'm on LinkedIn, Milena Berry. So very easy to find. Feel free to connect with me there. Send me a message. And definitely claim your profile on PowerToFly. I want to see you as a part of our community.
Love that. Thank you, Milena. That was fantastic. Thank you so much once again. And we will keep in touch.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.